It's 8:12, so we'll go ahead and get started this morning. Thank you all for coming to the huddle. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the innovations and development in our accounts payable system. So accounts payable, the treasurer's office really just takes over when it's time to pay vendors. That's really when it becomes our responsibility. Accounts payable system is every office. It generates invoices. It's the auditor's office that really runs those things through. They do a lot of the data entry, a lot of the managing of the approval process, and getting those invoices ready to pay in batches. They just come down to us, and all we have to do is print the checks. But it really becomes our burden from that point on that if a check gets lost in the mail, if the vendor loses a check, if a check gets eaten up, if, whatever, it's our job to follow up on those things and make sure that the money gets into the hands of the people that it's supposed to once the county offices and the commission and everyone have authorized that payment as a good payment. We probably generate about 7,000 or 8,000 checks per year, would probably be about what accounts payable does. So you can, imagine even if just 1% or something of those don't get cashed, you're looking at, several a month of the things that need to be followed up on and figured out what happened. So obviously, in this day and age, there's a lot of push, a lot of desire for electronic payments. These are difficult to do. Number one, with our accounting software, it only recognizes one type of electronic payment. So there's a PPD format, which is when we send your direct deposit for payroll. We're utilizing our system for that PPD formatted electronic payment that goes to the bank. Now, I'm assuming everybody wants to keep payroll going, and so I can't use our system to use and switch it over to the CCD type and use it for vendor payments because our system only allows us to do one type or the other, and I don't want to do anything that might accidentally mess up payroll. But second of all, there's also another issue with it as well. And that is that getting those electronic payments from our system and trying to push them out would require us to if we want to direct deposit a vendor payment and pay their invoice, we'd have to have their bank account number and their routing information and all of this type of stuff from the vendor. And you can imagine the security concerns that can come from housing all that information on our system, and also the verification process that would be difficult because Joe Schmo calls me on the phone one day and says, I'm with XYZ vendor, and I know you do business with us, and when you start paying my invoices, I want you to start sending it to this bank account number. And I don't know if Joe Schmo really works there or not. So there's difficulty in electronic payments to vendors with the system that we have. So our bank approached us years back and talked to us about what's called an integrated payables system. What this allows us to do is take all the information that's already in our accounts payable system. We've already got the vendor's name and address. We've already got the invoice number that we're paying. We're already got the purchase order number is already attached to that. The dollar amount we're paying them. All of this information is already in the accounts payable system when we process an invoice because we print it on the check. So what the bank did was they partnered with another third party vendor, and that's called Paymode-X is the product. Bottom line is the company. But what Paymode-X allows us to do is just to take all that data that's already in our accounts payable system and just upload it to their system. And then they take care of paying the vendors for us. Now that can they work with the vendors, and the vendors register to be in their payment network. I think there's probably like 400,000 vendors nationwide that are in their part of their payment network that receive payments through this system. But what Paymode-X does is they register the vendor and figure out if the vendor wants the money direct deposited into a certain account, or if they want a credit card payment, or if they still want a check. The Paymode-X figures that out and takes care of generating that payment in the way that the vendor wants it and getting it to them. And they do it in such a way where all of the data and information comes with it. So they don't just get they don't just get the money deposited in their bank account. They get all of the remittance information along with it in a format that suits their accounts receivable system. So they know that Greene County is the one that paid invoice number 123 on such and such a date. In fact, that maybe there's 2 or 3 invoices that got paid that make up this $1 amount that they got, and they get all of that information in ways that integrate with their accounts receivable system. And so it's something that a lot of vendors are very keen on and very desirous of, but it's not for everybody. It's going to accommodate more the vendors that we do large volumes of payments with and paying lots of small invoices to. Those are the ones that this type of a system works best with. As you know, anytime you go to even fast food restaurants now, most of every single one of them now, you can swipe a credit card and pay for your meal. Well, when you do that them accepting that credit card means they get that money right away. It's cashless transaction. They don't have to deal with the deposit. There's lots of benefits to that vendor, but they also pay for that service as well. Every credit card swipe costs them a few cents, and a very small percentage of your purchase price also is a charge to them from the credit card company. So anybody that accepts electronic payments is often used to paying these very small transaction fees in order to get this paperless system, in order to get the money right away and not wait for the check to arrive in the mail and then, wait for one of their people to, shuffle it around and add it to a deposit and take it to the bank and all of these things. They pay just a tiny fraction in order to get that more seamless electronic automatic system going on. Cash flow is very important for a lot of businesses. So for them to wait for checks to arrive in the mail and put together deposits and get those to the bank, sometimes that 4 or 5 days where they're not waiting for the U.S. Postal Service to deliver that check and for their employees to process and get it into the deposit and get it into the bank, just to have it automatically into the bank before they even receipt it in, helps them in their cash flow, because that's very, very important for businesses. So businesses, they get the money faster because as soon as we upload that file to the bank, that day or the very next day, the money is in their account. And then they've got, they can set it up to where they get these emails, or they can, and the email might have a link or a button that downloads the remittance information. And some of them have such sophisticated systems, they can then just upload that right into their system and it marks it as paid. So that they don't even have to receipt in the individual payments. Their system just says, okay, this many electronic payments came in, and it just marks them all as paid in their accounts receivable system. So they know which invoices we've paid, which ones we haven't paid. And it works just like the payments they get from their other customers. So this is this program is in its beginning stages. We've been working on it for a while. There was a little bit of customization that was needed with our software system, because we had to teach our software system how to build this report to their specs, so that when we run accounts payable, instead of printing checks, we just send this data file to them, upload it to them, and they pay the vendors. And we've done one test run so far to just test out a couple of payments, and it was successful. And so now we're working on our second kind of test or control batch, to run another maybe 20 payments or something like that here, probably this week, and make sure everything is still running smooth. And then once that takes place, we will go in and really ramp up the program. What I found very interesting was that when we first checked, 20% of the payments, and this just happened to be on a certain particular given day, of all the hundreds of invoices we had walking through our system, I did a cross check to see how many of those vendors are already in this Paymode-X payment network and already willing to accept payments in this way. And it was right about 20% of the payments on that particular day would qualify for these electronic payments. Of course, there's campaign. This is a national company. So what they'll do is they'll reach out, and they are going to contact. Paymode-X does this. The company Bottom Line does this. They reach out. We gave them their list of all of our vendors, and they will reach out to our vendors as we get this program up and running, and they will offer this service to the vendor. So if the vendor wants to enroll in this program, that they can instruct Paymode-X how to pay them, whether via credit card, whether depositing a certain bank account, whatever. They can give that information to Paymode-X, and then we will add them. We will change that vendor over to the payment type for Paymode-X payments. So when we run accounts payable, we'll always continue to print checks for the people that want checks. But now for those that want these electronic payments, we'll just send that data file onto our bank and let them take care of paying those vendors from there. There'll be a lot less uncashed checks. There'll be less check stuffing. Because of the good information that goes along with it, more information than what we could usually fit on a check will fit in this data file when it goes to the vendor. So they'll actually be getting more information. If they get the payment electronically, they'll get more information as far as what we're paying and those types of things. So it's very it's good in that way. Hopefully it will create some efficiency once we get it up and running, and more vendors, sign on to do that, to get paid in that way. It'll just save us time. It's also a good, emergency management is always talking to us about our emergency procedures. Like, what would we do if there was some sort of a disaster and, sprinkler systems went off or something like that and ruined our office and our equipment or some sort of a natural disaster or something takes place, and we're working off site and trying to, operate the county from a different place, and the tools that we're used to using are not there. if we lost our ability to print checks, what's nice is that this service can replicate that for us off-site. We could toggle all of our vendors if we wanted to onto this system and upload all of our payments to Paymode-X. And if that vendor is not registered with Paymode-X to receive the electronic payments, they've got the name, they've got the address, they've got the dollar amount, they've got it. They just print a check as if it was coming directly from us. They print the checks and mail them directly out to the vendors. Now, obviously, if we did that, there's a cost. You know, it cost us a lot to print the checks, to mail the checks for the postage and all of that. So, you know, they're going to put that on their machines. They can do it more efficiently than we can, but they're still going to, you know, there would still be a charge. But that service could be replicated very, very quickly, so that in the case of some sort of disaster, that's kind of becomes an emergency backup plan for getting county payments out. We've got another company that can actually cut our checks for us, and all we have to do is send them a data file for them to be able to do that. So that's another nice thing about the system, that replication of those vital services. I'm sure there's a lot more. I'm sure there's holes, because in my mind, I've just been, you know, living this for months. So I'm sure I'm probably leaving holes or unanswered questions, or maybe talking about things that, you know, forgetting there's certain foundational information that not everybody has or understands. Are there any questions as far as the way something like this works? I will tell you this, that vendor communication is something that you know, we don't have to contact our vendors and ask them to do this. They enroll directly with Paymode-X. So this company called Bottom Line they look at our vendors, they analyze all the vendors that we do business with, and they pick the ones that they think this would be a profitable service, the ones that would probably have a sophisticated accounts receivable system, the ones that we send checks to on a regular basis and would probably like to get those payments electronically. They're taking care of reaching out and doing that campaign. We don't have to do that because, like I said, not every vendor is going to be a fit for the program. Typically, other governments that are going to get a large payment from us are not going to want to pay a transaction fee of a slight percentage on a very large amount. So typically, they're not the target for something like this. And also individuals, because Paymode-X has a very robust security system and research system to make sure the vendor is who they say they are, to make sure they've got their federal tax ID information, to make sure they're a legit vendor doing business legitimately, and their banking information is legit. So an individual who might get, you know, a reimbursement check or something from us will continue to get a reimbursement check. They're not looking to get your personal bank information, or a juror, say, you know, that comes and does jury service for a long time, and then they get a small payment. We're not looking to pay those individuals and other payments. We will always continue to cut checks ourselves for those types of things. And I think our goal from the original analysis, Paymode-X was looking at it, and once we get the system fully operational, maybe 50% of our payments would eventually go out in this electronic format, as opposed to the checks. But we'll always be cutting checks, because then that allows us, if something were to happen with their company or their payment network were to go down, we could easily then just flip that switch back and change all those vendors back to getting a regular check if we want to, so that, you know, or if a vendor signs up and then they don't like the service, and or they don't, you know, they don't understand, it's not compatible with their system, they can't figure it out or whatever, we can easily just toggle them back to getting a regular check. So we can go back and forth with it if necessary until everybody's happy. The important thing is that our vendors are happy. So if they're not happy with the service, we will take them off of it and just continue to send them a regular check. If you get contacted by any of your vendors that you do business with, know that Paymode-X at this time is reaching out to our vendors as we speak. So if they find a vendor and they think it would be a good fit for the electronic payments, and they reach out, and then your vendor might call you and say, yeah, I've never heard of this thing before, and they're saying it's from you, they're saying they're working with you. Is this a scam, or is this something that, that I can trust? They can trust it, if it comes from bottom line. But if they're a little bit leery of, following links and stuff from, from this other company, they can then we have, we can send them an attachment directly from us, that has the link of how they would go and sign up for those electronic payments if they still wanted it, but were a little bit leery about an email that came from another company. If you work with vendors and you think vendors might be getting in touch with you and asking questions about this program, and you really don't want to, have to deal with that, I do want a lot of the questions to come to myself personally. I want to handle this. I want to keep a finger on the pulse of how this company is treating our vendors, of how the system is working, of how happy our vendors are with the system. So I do want that feedback. If vendors have questions, or if vendors give you comments or whatever, you are welcome and I would ask you to go ahead and send those, directly to me. Call my direct line, or send it to my email address. And if you think some vendors might be contacting you and you want to know more, I've got an email that's gone out to most of our invoice processors and most of our accounts payable people and our purchasing folks, that just kind of outlines a little bit more information and has the nice little one-page document that we can forward on to vendors that ask for more information or ask for the link to come directly from us. I've got that kind of information that I can provide you. Just email and ask. And don't forget that I'm not Jay Hill at greencountymode.gov. I'm J.R. Hill at greencountymode.gov. So any questions? Yes, Commissioner.
Is there a payment size that would be too large for Paymode-X to handle? Like, I was kind of thinking like some of the contractors, like a Dunn or a SAP, or is that an ideal client?
So if we are paying a vendor, like when the jail was being built, those payments to the construction companies that were, building the jail could have been over $1 million. So Paymode-X would love to run those payments, right? And take a fraction of a % of that. But the company is probably not going to want that. In those cases, we will do a manual ACH payment. Now, those are not efficient for us to do, because if we get a batch of checks, if we print 50 checks, we just have to sit there and stuff 50. If we have to stop because one of those vendors has $1 million payment, they don't want that check going through the mail. They want it directly deposited in their bank account. And they give us those instructions, those payment instructions. We will go log on to the bank, retype all that information in, and initiate that payment to their account. That creates there's an approval process on that. So another person will have to log into the bank and hit approve. So that, for us to send the electronic payments ourselves, is a very manual process. And that's why we don't offer it to, because then we would spend all day retyping the information into the bank's deal to send that ACH. But we will continue to do that for those extremely large and rare situations. If we have large contracts with that, where they're just not willing to pay the processing fees, but they've got to get that money electronically, We can do that, but we don't offer it. And sometimes when people ask, we just say no, because for us, that type of electronic payment adds the liability to us for, keeping their banking information on file, and it's a very manual process. So that's why this partnership with Paymode-X was something that we needed to do for both the security side and for the efficiency side. Yes, Jeff.
A silly question. I just don't remember the state law specifically enough. But when you're issuing warrants, we have to have certain signatures and certain kind of signatures, and you have signatures with authorizations to go on physical checks. How do we account for that in electronic payments?
Well, the warrants, technically, like in the old government statutes that require, warrants, I think the warrant is, some look at it as, well, the check is the warrant, because, a check is a warrant for them to go in. But then also, kind of that requisition or invoice running through our electronic payment system is also a warrant, because it's the authorization for the payment to go out. And the commission has, logged in. They've looked at all those invoices. They've approved those. The office holders have approved those. Everybody's approved those warrants. So think of that as electronically as that goes through the system. And then that warrant that is authorized then, gives me the authority to then pay the vendor, which I can either issue a warrant, another warrant, which is a check, or I can, or the electronic payments. I think electronic payments just weren't around when the statutes were written. So we do kind of look more at the intent of the law, or, we feel like we're satisfying the law in a technological age with those type of technicalities. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, and one thing that also happens is annually, and I think our attorney came up with this solution just to kind of a CYA kind of a thing, was that, every year we all sign a document, me and the commissioners and everybody, we sign a document, physical signature, that says and authorizes my electronic approval to act as my physical signature. And we re-sign that agreement every single year with the auditor's office, so that's on file, that we've agreed that our electronic approval is our physical signature, or acts as our physical signature. Yeah. So don't share your passwords and your login information. Anything else? Yes, Debbie. Well, like I said, when we just, it wasn't really a fair analysis, because it just happened to be the hundreds of invoices that were in the system on that day. Day one, 20% of them qualified. And it was, from the beginning, I think, with Paymode-X's analysis, looking through our vendors, and us also looking at our own vendors and saying, well, all of these won't qualify. I think 50% is probably the most we can ever hope for running vendor payments through this type of thing. Because we work with a lot of contract labor. We pay jurors. We do revenue sharing with other government agencies, and a lot of things that just won't work. We've communicated to Paymode-X. So now there's a financial side to this as well. Not only will it create some efficiencies for our office, when we don't have to stuff, half the check stuffing that we do is hopefully, at some point gone. But when the county already pays things via credit card, sometimes purchasing department, travel stuff, a lot of purchases, if they work, I think, if they're buying something off of, the only place they can find it is Amazon, and, they've got it, they can't, Amazon's not going to take a purchase order from a county government and wait, a month to get their check or whatever. So they just use the county credit card. There's already things that get purchased off of the county's credit card account, and that provides a rebate back to the county. Just like when you use your own personal credit card and you use it for airline miles and eating out and gas, and you get that 1.5% cash back or whatever, that's the credit card company sharing with you those transaction fees. And so you get those points and and those cash rewards, and they rack up on the credit card that you use. The county's the exact same thing, but higher volume. So every year the county already gets maybe $8,000 or $9,000 back from the bank from the cash rewards and the kickback for vendors being willing to take the credit card payment. This this puts that system on steroids, and it's possible that kickback, that annual revenue from credit card transaction fee, rewards, those could go from, 8 or 9,000 to 80 or 90,000, or maybe even over six figures. So, so there's a little bit of financial incentive as well to use this, because they share those transaction fees with somebody like us that's willing to use their program. But we've communicated to them that the revenue side of it is not our main motivation behind doing this. We want to keep our vendors happy, and we want to create efficiencies. So we're not, we don't want to try and get the biggest transaction fee. Sometimes they can, the type of, so see, they're going to try and upsell. They've got a whole software accounts receivable enhancement system that they could sell to a big vendor like, O'Reilly's or something like that. But obviously they're going to try and do that as they get these different companies in their payment network to receive electronic payments. They're going to want to offer them additional services. And that's fine. That'll generate a little bit of revenue for the county, but we've let them know that, we're in it for the efficiency and for, satisfying a lot of our vendors who have been asking for electronic payments for a long time. So, even if it's not generating revenue, even if you're just sending, if you'll just send a basic ACH to them, and we're happy with that because it's still cheaper than sending a check for us and mailing it. Oh, goodness gracious! I'm over time. I thought for sure that we still had more. Okay. Sorry. Thank you.